Ouais. Yes, okay, no problem. As you can see, we have Lowell here today. Roxy was unavailable, but our wonderful Lowell came back to us, so we will start, I think, we have a package for you today, and Lowell's gonna start off with us.
It's a sincere privilege for me to be back. I know y'all have been doing a lot of hard work. And we're pleased to bring you a package proposal today that we believe meets the joint goals and objectives for both parties. Defined membership, essential public servants, as well as the operational goals and the budgetary and financial needs of the city of Austin. Our mutual targets and objectives include retention, hiring, recruitment, maintaining the morale of our personnel, and recognizing the value of the services, the credentials, the professionalism that your members bring to the job. We've attempted to meet as many of your key priorities, marrying them with those operational realities for the city. This proposal takes the association's last pay proposal, and for the most part, leaves the pay scale, pay table intact with the following notes. And we'll be going through these with the numbers and the dollars in some detail. Entry-level pay for medics set at $24.20, consistent with your last proposal. Retains the proposal that the differential between commander and division chiefs is at 14%. The proposed steps remain the same, except that we had to, on the out years, in order to make the funds work to do the pay scale increase, the last step at 26, but not one at step 23 front end, with the first step for medics being moved from year 2 back to year 3. This proposal includes language for Article 6 that adds requested stipends, and you'll see the language for PL 6. What we have done is, we'll get to the language in a minute. We've included language in there that allows the department to set the criteria for that, but with an assurance that people that are currently at that rank would be eligible for that. I think there's 72 of them. Something like that. The integrated services at $150 a month, adding UAS, CASMed, and Lake Med to the special ops article, structuring them into the assignment certification pay article, that those pays can't be stacked, but the highest applicable pay would be received by the member. This proposal doesn't include the leave buyback proposal that was in your last request to the city. So other than that, we think it's the same. We will be going through the language that we have for Article 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, and 13. And we have scaled back our request on Articles 12 and 13, and we'll discuss that just to try to get done and to indicate our clear intention that when we walk out here today, we're hoping that we have this done. We have tried this cycle. I think you've seen that. I feel like, not that my opinion matters to y'all, but I feel like the city has been as transparent and forthright in how the numbers work, how we see the numbers, how we calculate the numbers in this bargaining process as any I've ever participated in. And I think that's a really good thing. I think it shows our respect for each other. It gives you the opportunity to make sure that your members understand that the city's not up to some kind of sneaky stuff that you don't understand, or that we have some trick up our sleeve, or whatever they may be worried about. I think we've gotten past the potential confusion that comes from the 5-year costing, which is an enhancement, I think, in the Austin budgetary process, to where even though we're looking at the contract pricing and costs at the bargaining table over the period of the contract term, that we're also looking for the public's benefit and protection at the 5th year outside cost to make sure that, there aren't unknown, chickens come home to roost kind of scenarios there. And we do want to say that in an effort to continue keeping in mind the parameters and the value of pay to your personnel, as well as the rest of the people in the city workforce, that The city had previously costed a budget for this 4-year contract with the 6%, 4%, 3 and 3 base pay model. And that our last proposal actually exceeded the cost of that straight base pay proposal. I think that with your team and ours, we have figured out how to put the money where it needs to go. We have listened to and talked to y'all about where you want to put the money, where it has to go. And, you know, spent more money on some things. When you see the actual delivered pay raises in the pay scale that we'll be going over in just a minute, I think that we have accomplished that. And so obviously, one of your key pieces was to increase the entry-level medics cost so that they are fairly paid with respect to other people doing a highly similar job. And, you know, maybe even with a higher level of credentials. And so we're proud to get that done, recognizing that, you know, that's a key feature that you brought to the table, insisted that we address. So that's pretty much where we are, and I think we're going to go through the numbers next, unless there's any questions on the comments that I have made, just as an overview.
We were there a minute ago.
It was working, I saw it.
I would go back to your calendar and start again. Oh, there it is. Okay, so looking at the pay scale, you'll see that there is, Roxy does not lie, there is a lag on this cursor. So let's see. This is the same amount that y'all had here. We believe these amounts remain the same. See the division chief here at 14%. When you look at the step increases themselves, what Lowell was talking about is where you had the 5% for medic, it was in year 2. We have moved that to year 3. Other than that, we believe everything remains the same, with the exception of we were unable to cost in the year 23 step and meet the target. So everything else should be the same. So when we move up to kind of, you know, these will all be the same except for in those locations. And when you move up to what kind of, I always find the easiest tool to use is this one. You know, what kind of raise will people actually be seeing in year 1? Aside from right here, the 2 to 3 year, and aside from the 23 year, everything else should remain the same as your last proposal. So we believe that the pay scale, you know, is as close as we can get to what you had last proposed. When you come up to the total here, I don't know if I can make this any better. You'll see that in the out years, you know, pay scale adjustment on year 1 is how we've shown you. And then in the out years, it's 4%, 3%, 3%. And this just kind of describes these. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. You know, within here, you know, the increase in the entry level to 2420 at the medic level. The overall increase is between 4% and 11% based on your rank and your tenure. It adds a 3% at your 26 in order to assist with retention. We've added the PL6 at 100. We've added integrated services at 150. We've given you credit for the EMTP. And we've added the UAS, CASMED, and Lake Med to the special ops. And then we'll show you in the language itself how we've kind of restructured that so that there's the inability to stack just the assignment and the certification. It doesn't get into any of the bilingual or education or anything like that. So if you pull up the other one. Do you have any questions on this before we go into the language itself? Now, I sent the language to you yesterday to get a look at it. There are a couple of minor changes. They're nothing substantive, but I'll go through all of it with you so that you can see.
Trying to get rid of these.
You can stop sharing for a second until so that you're not. While you find. For sharing, so you can look for it now.
It's on my desktop.
Now you're sharing again. How did that happen? Okay. Yeah. want me to drive or do you want?
Yeah.
to? I'm gonna drive again. Okay, so this shows rid of whatever that is. Okay, sorry about that. Is that big enough for y'all to see? I know it's difficult when it comes to the online. So what this shows is the base wages in year one are in accordance with the pay scale. For the second year, it's 4%. For the third year and fourth year, 3%. Down, nothing changes until you get to how we have structured the, what had read is just a special ops pay, which actually was assignment pay. It takes all of the assignment pays and puts them in one place along with the certification pay. It adds here to the special ops, the tactical, the CASMAT, the UAS. It uses your prior language on integrated services. We have that at 150. It has the ACS moved from down here below up into the assignment pay, which it technically is. That remains at 150 a month. The PL6, this is a little bit of the language that we changed since yesterday. So it says a uniformed staff member who qualifies and carries an extended scope paramedic credential shall be entitled to certification pay of $100 per month. We've added under a program as established by the chief. We added to ensure that you don't feel like we're trying to trick you or not give it to anybody who currently has it, that such program shall include at a minimum all uniformed staff certified as such at the time this agreement is entered into. At some point, there may get to be too many, that the chief doesn't see it operationally beneficial, so that's why we put that in there. But it would include everybody who, at the time of the contract is entered into, would get that. And then the last part is what we call the no stacking provision. It just states that anyone entitled to pay under more than one subsection of this would only qualify for one, but it does allow them to get the highest of whatever that is. Any questions on those portions of it? Will be moved down a little bit. That was just moved up. The section 4 was just moved up into the other. Bilingual, we've added the Polish in there is the only change. None of the rest of this has changed. The certification that was swapped out for the PL6 above. And nothing else has changed in that, in Article 6. So please stop me as I move along. If you have questions, I'll try to periodically stop just in case. So Article 7, this is what you've seen already. I still have it in blue because you had not had a chance to review it totally and or accept it or make any modifications you wanted to. This is the same proposal that we had on Friday. So there's no language changes here from what you have already seen. And the same with the workload schedule. We've changed the on-call pay to the $5. We agreed with that that's already consistent with what's current practice. And these, our position has not changed as not having been in the last couple of pay proposals from y'all either. None of that has changed since last week. Article 8, same thing. This has not changed since last week, but you had not accepted the language, so we've left it. Everything in here I've tried to just make, if it hasn't been agreed to, it's blue or red. Everything else I've tried to put green. If there were proposals that have been withdrawn, I've tried to take them out so that they're not confusing things up. So here, this is, I think we're generally on the same page here. It was just a matter of you guys were reviewing the language still. We have green there. We had not accepted this, but that had not changed since last week. Article 9, we had agreed to the language change. Juneteenth had not been included in the last pay, so that has not changed since last week. And that was also not included in your costing model is what I was saying. The leave buyback program, as we told you in the intro, that's something we were not able to fit into this funding cost. You want me to stop for a minute? Any questions on those? Okay, so for promotions, I will tell you overall on promotions and hiring, I'll go through it, but really where we are is we were, as part of the package proposal, we were asking that you give on the division chief appointment. And we were giving on the ability to promote years that we had held on to. Aside from that, I think almost everything else is the same there. We have one additional change since yesterday, and I'll show that to you. Most of the blue in here, you'll see are the minor edits like this that Roxy was making that were just
Clean up.
clean up, like ideological things that we'd agreed to, but it was just cleaning up the language. But I want to show you one thing that we've changed.
Can you stop there unless you're gonna talk about?
Yeah, nope, I wasn't gonna talk here.
Oh, scroll up. We,
Wait, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
it's fine, under eligibility.
okay.
We just, I don't think we had seen that y'all had removed the clinical specialist, that field afterwards, and we just wanted to know if there was a specific reason for that.
Yes, we've done that throughout. We've removed field and we've removed it in comm as well.
And I think basically what we're trying to figure out is how do we explain to our members exactly how people can promote and do all this other stuff, and we didn't know if this was an intentional change to change the way that who can promote into that position.
So I think this was part of our attempt to allow for the crossing between the field and comm to try to make that easier, as one of the chief's primary goals in the agreement. Chief, am I missing something here?
Can you clarify what your question is? 'Cause I think I might understand what it is, but I just want to be sure.
I don't think we had specifically talked about this as being a request that, so for example, somebody can promote from clinical specialist or let's say captain comm into commander fields, what that would actually look like, because they would have to have their paramedic and they would have to have their FTO and their PL5 before they crossed
Correct.
over.
Correct. So I think, and I'm not sure if it's reflected in the language there, but that is correct. It is because of the requirements for field to go to either a clinical specialist or captain or commander position is a bit more difficult. So I think we wanted to keep those things the same, but you still have to meet the requirements for the job. There are job descriptions that are in place. There are all sorts of things that are there. Safeguards to make sure that, yes, you have to have those things prerequisite for the promotion. Is that what you're concerned?
Yeah, so can you just detail for us, like, if you are a comm captain and you try to promote into field commander, what they would have to do?
They would have to meet the criteria for that position. So they would need to have their PL5, they would have to meet all of those requirements that are set forth to do that. In some ways, it is a bit easier on the communications side because you don't have to have the PL5 credential, which requires a lot more, intensive time in the field. It's not to say that one job is more difficult than the other, it's just the requirements are different. So that's where it gets more difficult coming from the communication side to the field side, is that you would still have to meet those criteria to be eligible for that position.
And are we talking about eligible to take the test and get on the promotional list? Or are we talking about being selected off of the list to actually assume the job?
I think it's to be able to participate in the testing process.
And for,
And I'm going off of
Yeah.
previous discussions. so we need to-
And I'm only asking that question, not because I'm weighing in on the right way to do it. I just want to make sure that ultimately, whatever we do, it's clear in the contract.
Right,
We're
and-
talking about, can the chief put you in the slot or can you actually take the test?
and I think for CS to captain, as CS in communications would just have to have their paramedic to take the captain test and.
So this doesn't have this in the clinical specialist language.
Right, yes.
It remains field. I mean, it didn't cross it out there only
Yes.
once you get to captain.
Right, yes, yes.
And if I had to describe this scenario, there's been a lot of talk about cross training from field to comm to field. And it's a fact that it is difficult to do any cross-training from COG into the field right now because of staffing. It's just too critical right now to be able to release people for that amount of time to do that. But if we had a situation where we did have people who were able to cross-train, they got their PL5 credential, and then they wanted to promote into a position at that point, I think that's something that would be allowable for them to move through that way. But it's all based on being able to do that part of the training as well.
And if you were a comm CS, could you test for a field captain without, no, you would probably need your PL5 because that is.
Long as like with the requirements and whatnot, I've been trying to find all the full job duties descriptions for anything above cadet. As just a person that doesn't have access to any internal systems. Maybe I'm not good at searching through the city's website. Where can I find the job duties and descriptions for anything above captain or anything? Because it only shows what positions are available. The only available positions that they show are cadet. And so in trying to figure out for just myself, the general public who don't have access to these internal postings, where can I find the job duties descriptions of, would I have to do a public information request to find them, or do y'all, or is that available to the public to know what, for anything above cadet, what the job duties and descriptions are?
I think it's publicly.
I mean, I can't
I don't know
find
for
it.
sure, but-
I can't find it through the EMS department or HR, just searching the city's website. And so I mean, I would like to at least be able to see that. I only have some information from what I've gotten through the association, but publicly, I can't see.
I don't know. It's
Okay.
the answer. We can find that out for you.
Because that would seem to be it would be important for us to know what, or at least the general public, people who we are trying to recruit to this department, they should probably have access to what kind of job duties and descriptions would be involved with a career path at this department.
I don't know. We can find that out for you.
Yeah, because I think we're just trying to, I mean, this is kind of an internal conversation and I understand the desire for folks to be able to transfer between, but I think we have seen sometimes that folks use these rules to kind of get away with some stuff, and we want it to be fair for everybody, of course, and I think y'all do too. So we just want to make sure we're really running the traps. Like I'll give you an example. So if let's say you newly promote to field captain, then you laterally transfer over into comm to be a comm captain. You get you get all the training that you need. And then within a year, you could promote to commander, and then you could cross back over to field commander, and then much faster, I would think, and then promote to division. I think that's what our concern is we
Yes.
just want to kind of work out some of those.
So what I think the disconnect here might be is that, like as a rule, we do not bargain over job descriptions. So I think we were trying to get the minimum that the association was needing in here without getting into the job description. So I think this is intended to be in addition to the job description requirements. But maybe that's like, you know what I'm
No,
saying? So I think it was just a matter of not putting it all in there, but we could refer to it as under the purview of the chief, not giving up his managerial rights, but show here that that's inclusive as well, something like that.
I think we just want to run through the traps of folks trying to go between the two in order to move up faster and bypassing the other folks who have done their time in that division. I think that's what we're trying to kind of run different scenarios in our head.
All right,
So we'll keep working on that because we
Yeah.
just kind of started talking about that because I don't think we had seen that field cross out. And so I think that allows some of that to happen.
Okay,
But we'll continue talking.
and we'll chat about it as well and see if we have. So-
And then you originally, in eligibility, I think in the draft that you sent over to us, the one that you emailed to us, it used to say, continuous service in the department, who has at least 2 years immediately before the exam, and who has had 4 years service in the department Okay, okay. So I'm just saying, noting that in Commander you have crossed out continuous, and I just didn't know if that was in Captain or if it. I'm just trying to make sure we're being consistent is all.
And I think you're saying it currently is, right?
I believe it's
Got rid of
currently-
consistent in the other rank for commander.
Yes.
Well, yeah, whether that was new language that we were crossing out or whether it's current language, I
We
can't
don't
tell you
think
off the
it's
top of my
different,
head.
right?
No, and we had talked about that in subcommittee quite a bit, and I think our withdrawal of the language was attempting to withdraw all of it, and I thought the reason for that was so that when you reappoint, or conversations that went along with that, that you could use your total time in the department, including the reappointment time, but, you know,
Yeah,
I
I
think
would,
we're open to whether that's continuous or not.
I think
honestly.
just maybe transmitting some language, something might have gotten a little funny because it's
Could be.
consistent in our old contract. So we might have added it in at some point.
And did it have continuous in the old contract?
It did not. It had continuous in, it had continuous in the 2 years immediately before the exam.
But
and
not
it
in
has
years of service?
6 years.
So if we have taken it out here and have not taken it out in Commander, is what you think, then we would have intended to take it out in Commander as well.
You did take it out in Commander, but it made it look like it had originally been in there, but now when I go back to the original contract, it hadn't originally been in there, but I'm sure it was something that we had added and y'all thought was from the original contract. If you keep going down, you'll see.
Okay. We are trying to do it consistently, though. We were trying to go back to original contract language on both of these and withdraw our proposal. is the intent.
It's just that there's so much language.
There is a lot,
Well, and
yeah.
and generally what we're doing is, it's not just this department, but departments are being forced into having to utilize people from the outside in order to meet their staffing needs. And so historical restrictions on going up the career ladder, you gotta go revisit those. Do those still serve the purposes that they were?
Yeah, and we have,
Yeah, we have had massive discussions on that exact, how do we balance the new people coming in laterally,
Right.
direct hires to the people coming up through the department, and we're trying to get a good balance
Yeah,
as
and-
best we can on that.
and even for us internally, we want to balance between the ability to be able to cross over, but also to not make it so that you can bypass people who are existing. So it's even not just about the direct hires, it's an internal conversation.
Yeah, that last piece I had not understood until you explained it. Makes perfect sense, but it just didn't occur.
This is, we'll call it Roxy Cleanup, the blue, and same. These are green, meaning agreed to. This is, okay, so in the educational, I want to show you, because we've done this throughout. This, for some reason, this last part of it had only been caught in like the clinical specialist. So we've captured this last part of it and kicked it into each of the educational points. It's not a big deal. We consider it cleanup, but we wanted to point it out because it had not been in the one I sent to you yesterday. So you can take a look at that and see if it's. So we had agreed to. This is the commander section and, yeah, see, where we took out of continuous service, that was just our proposal we were deleting. Here, is that where you're talking in Commander, that you thought we had deleted it as if it were in the old contract? No, it's blue, meaning it was our language that we're withdrawing. I may not have shown the withdrawal in the previous one, that's just a typo. And then here we have included the 90-day language, which you hadn't agreed to the exact language. I think, conceptually, it's been on the table since last week, and I think it hopefully attains as close as we can get to expanding, catching more people at least at a minimum to try to be able to take the exam of those who may not be eligible, but, takes it out another 90 days if they can become eligible within that time frame. So that has not changed. These are cleanup and then already agreed to cleanup. Cleanup, this is the same education section. And the reason that looks so long is I was literally cutting and pasting and just took out the whole prior part of it and wrote it the same way, the same for each of them. This has been agreed to.
You told me you did that to confuse you.
I did, yeah.
It worked.
This is Roxy cleanup here and agreed to language. taking out all of the technical skills. Adding the associates in there. This is the same education change that we've talked about just now. Green is already agreed to. This is Roxy cleanup. Last week, this is Roxy cleanup from last week. This is the education that we've just discussed. This is already agreed to. So although this looks very, very long, we're a lot closer than it looks to the untrained promotional eye. And eligibility here, again, we have withdrawn our proposal on this and we're trying to go back to status quo language with the only addition is that I believe at the association's request, we had made that in the department. So that should be consistent throughout. So that's kind of, and then of continuous was something we had added and taken back out. And then the 90-day language, again, you need to look at it, see if that's meets the goals, or at least as close as we can come to meeting the goals. That's Roxy cleanup language. This is already agreed to. This is Roxy cleanup language. This is the educational portion again. This is already agreed to. This is what we are asking. We've had this on the table for quite some time. We're asking as part of the package that you allow the appointment of the division chiefs. So that language is the same as it's been from our side of the table. This is already agreed to. And I think everything until we hit reappointments is already agreed to, but let me. Boy, I guess we're not moving. I've really captured your attention apparently. And that's already, I think you already agreed to that, but it wasn't green yet.
It's disconcerting that the lights come on and go off in the code enforcement.
Scenarios we had agreed to, this has been agreed to. That's cleanup language. We believe that you had agreed with this conceptually, whether or not the exact language, this is the 90 days again. But that's been on the table since last week. This is cleanup language. We believe this is agreed to, but we didn't want to highlight it for you. Oh, that's already agreed to. So then when we get to the reappointment language, we did present this already last week. And this is in conjunction with Article 13 hiring, where we moved it to the 2 years placement for both reappointments and for a direct hire. So we tried to kind of marry those together. So you've had this language, just have not yet had either not agreed to it or not had a chance to look at it either way. On this one, the only thing we've done here is on all of our proposed language that you did not accept, we just cleaned it up and took it out so that you didn't have to look at the cross out of the new language that wasn't accepted since it wasn't original language. So the only thing that remains here is what we believe you're agreeing to, but want to make sure. And this is all the same. Sorry, this is taking so long, but I hate to put something out of context up there. Then when we get to Article 13, there's no changes since last week. It just is the, what we had proposed on the 2-year direct hire. So you can take a look at that again. Is that here?
See anything, it's not.
Oh, this is green. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, getting colorblind
There it is.
toward the end of the day. Yeah, so this takes your language, merges it with ours on the 2 years. So that's similar to the reappointments. And I think everything else is done. Yes. So that's our entire package proposal. I believe I pointed out any changes from what I sent you yesterday, but we will resend this to you again so that you have those changes. That's it. We hope we can get a deal. We think we've got a good proposal. The only things not on the table in this package, I believe is Article 1 and maybe Article 23, and those are literally just years, the dates. So take a look, ask any
I think that your
questions.
team knows this. We've been for some time now going round and round and round in the organizational process to figure out the funding that's available. And this is the funding that's available. It's been a long process and you've been insistent and demanding and you have accomplished a great deal. So hopefully we'll
Unfortunately, Lowell, we will continue to be insistent and demanding, but I think it's only because that we see the vacancies that we have. We recognize internally, what we need to pass the contract. And, you know, we've struggled a lot with the division chiefs and we offered that with the pay package that we sent over. And that hasn't changed. We certainly have a lot of work to do, when it comes to just making sure that there aren't loopholes, just trying to move with the crossovers and everything, and we just wanna think about that. But likely our financial position hasn't changed. But we'll definitely take a look at the financial package, and we do recognize the movement, but, you know, we think that's serious, and I think we really thought that, you know, that we were closer, but, you know, we're pretty serious about ours, especially, for the division chiefs, because that's a huge give on our part to think that, at 9, we wouldn't have anybody to be able to test about that. And, you know, it was a big give when we did it in 2018 and 2022. And so, you know, we continue to take that really seriously and our offer is still on the table.
Right, well, we have offered you almost 3 times what the last 4-year contract was. This is an extraordinary amount of money. I don't know how you and your membership don't see the extraordinary amount of money on the table. This is amazing.
And we don't think that the city appreciates the extraordinary need, for our members. And, you know, I think we might be at loggerheads on that. And, yeah, and I think, you know, we see what happened in 2022, the offer was 20 million. We obviously could not agree to that. We ended up doing it 1 year because it was so insufficient. We see the movement. But we also see that, you know, we think that fire does not have a deal. We're waiting for binding arbitration on that. Yeah, we think that the city's financial position has changed.
So do you prefer to wait for the binding arbitration decision to come out for fire?
I think that that's a conversation that we need to have in our team, but no, we would like to wrap up before that, absolutely.
I think that on the city's part also, I think the extraordinary measure of division chiefs of basically capping a career path for our members. I think y'all need to appreciate that extraordinary measure as well.
And, you know, we've have felt, underappreciated for many, many years, and we think that the city is working, but it will take an extraordinary effort, and that was to our discredit. We should not have signed the $10 million deal that many years ago. And then maybe, you know, it will require less right now.
Well, I would say that you have told us from the beginning of negotiations that you would need an extraordinary amount and that your members felt underappreciated through COVID, through, you know, comparison, through the changing duties that your department has, through the call load. And we heard that right off the bat. And you asked us not to BS you on the numbers, and we didn't. I don't know how you don't think this is an extraordinary number. I just don't. I'm flabbergasted that you think that we didn't hear you to begin with. If we didn't hear you to begin with, we would be nowhere near this number. Nowhere near. This is an extraordinary number.
It's the fastest rate of compensation change, I think, in the entire history of the city of Austin.
Nothing is even
Historically,
close.
I think it's the
It's
fastest.
crazy.
I mean, if you look at going from, I mean, we don't need to go into tit for tat on it, but if you look at what happened last year, I understand how the city portrays the 1-year contract we got. But the city employees went through the exact same thing. They bumped up their minimum wage $2. We basically bumped it up $2 and, you know, dealt with, and we compressed our pay scale in order to do that. That's what the city did. They bumped up $2 and they compressed their pay scale and everybody else got a 4% raise. So it's the exact same. So, you know, to characterize it as unprecedented, we literally got the exact same. And again, like, you know, we keep kind of reiterating the same arguments, but police walked away from the table and they got 4% and $3,000 bonuses on top, 15,000 for
Are
their.
you saying that you got a 4% raise last year?
It was 4% for above a certain rank or above a certain number of years of service. And we upped our entry level.
Well, so the numbers on that don't come up to 4%. Overall, it was a pay scale adjustment like we're trying to do this time to try to account for very specific things. You know, there were a lot of people who got a lot more than 4%.
Yes.
And so expressing it as we got the same is just disingenuous. That's not even fair, even close to fair.
But didn't y'all do a massive wide citywide pay scale adjustment as well to get up to minimum wage? Of $20 an hour from 18?
A living wage,
Yes.
that is the city council initiative that isn't in light of that. What we have done is what you asked us to do.
But
We
that was
compared,
done.
excuse me,
I know.
what we have done is what you asked us to do, which is to compare you to the call takers. And we have tried to ensure that you get that amount. And each time you brought the money down. Every time we tried to hit the mark that you asked us to meet, you have brought it down because you wanted different money elsewhere. We worked with you on that 100%. 100%. We have worked and put the money where you have asked that it be targeted. This pay proposal that we have on the table does exactly that.
We appreciate
I
that.
don't know where you think the
Again,
money is coming from, because this is an extraordinary offer.
I understand what you're saying. Again, we can go tit for tat and we can talk about when we first in subcommittee, and I really do appreciate the work. And obviously, you know, we haven't blown up negotiations. And we've continued to come this far because of the great work we did in the subcommittee. But I'll remind you, our initial ask was to get all of our medics up to $30 an hour, which is where we see some people coming in communications, starting that way. And, you know, I think we had a very valuable conversation about where that level really is. And so we worked with you, but I wouldn't say that, you know, y'all came in meeting all of our initial requests. We also asked initially for pay parity with fire on a salary basis because they have a 42-hour pay schedule as well. And showing, you know, like we will take their 42-hour pay scale. And that was a conversation we also had. And then, you know, we slowly said, well, we'll get at entry level, but we know that, you know, fire gets multiple steps in the first 4 years if you look at how quickly they escalate. And so to us, it's a little disingenuous to say just at year 0. So, you know, I think that there is a lot of back and forth and I do appreciate the effort. And I also know that we have a line.
So let me respond a little bit, hopefully for the benefit of both your team and your membership. We, and I mean that in the big royal we context, elected officials, city management staff from the LRO. Appreciate both the historical context and the aspirations and expectations of them. We have to do the best we can with those. And the best we can is not going to be everything that you want. It may not even be everything you deserve. Bargaining is always a continuous, long overtime process. You have a firefighters association and union and labor agreement that is decades in the making, that you are aspiring to compete with and to eat. It is a collective bargaining model, no arbitration with an arbitration impacts, which is not a part of the model that you have. You have a compensation and pay model that doesn't have an impasse procedure, doesn't have a duty of good faith negotiations, even though the city of Austin has clearly and dynamically bargained in good faith as if it was a part of the statute. So we're asking you to recognize all those pieces of the reality.
We do recognize, we hear the threat that y'all can just tell us what we're paid and we would have to take it.
I certainly made no such threat.
No one
saying-
has. That's
I'm
ridiculous.
saying, recognize the structural difference in the process, okay? Forget what I say on behalf of the city of Austin. If Houston or Craig Dietz or anybody else was representing on your side, I guarantee you they would tell you, you don't have the structure that firefighters have. That's just part of the
We do
process.
not. we do not have that same structure, and, you know, that can be blamed on past contracts from before any of us were here, or at least before most of us were here. You know, as far as not having an arbitration clause and things along those lines. And if you would not dismiss me before you actually hear me out, sir, I'd appreciate it, because this is not supposed to be a personal thing. But what I'd like to understand is that, one, the Labor Divisions Department, we're trying to come to a good contract here. We have been upfront about everything that we need. The division chief ask is a huge ask for us. We believe that we have conceded on many things, and we are asking for more. And we understand the restraints that are put on the city through a budget. However, we also see areas where budgets can be fixed and where some line items can be taken away to make sure that we are meeting this extraordinary need and the stress and the positions that our members are being put in. And you're right, Lowell, this does not equal what people deserve, and it's not what we have asked for. And so what we are asking is that we continue to look on this, because as of right now, the city has not been able to come to terms with the other public safety agencies. They have completely walked away from the table, and we are not walking away from the table. We have been committed to continuing these negotiations in good faith, even at times when we see things that have passed by that we don't agree with. And so what we want to do, as long as we're going to continue coming to this table, we don't want to waste any more time. We want to make sure that we come to an agreement, and that possibly on this third contract negotiation, that we can find something, that the city can find something where the other side actually agrees with them, and that we all feel that we have come to this in good faith and have continued to argue in good faith, and that we can walk away in that manner, finding a reasonable negotiation and solution.
I think we ultimately do feel like we have come down a lot, and, you know, I hear feedback that we should have come in at a higher opening, and, you know, I understand that they didn't realize the work that we had done, but I felt like we had gotten to a place that we were kind of agreeing on some basic principles, and, you know, taking away the 23 and doing those other things. It's not really, my mental calculation is where it is. And, you know, I really thought we presented the offer that would make our membership feel comfortable giving up the division chiefs.
Well, we have our offer on the table, so you can consider it.
Okay, we will consider it. Thank you.